warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuhu. My name is JUMAISA PANGGAGA and my partner was Daleah Raupan. We're going to discuss the 4.10 Fiscal Policy from 1946 to present. Fiscal policy is the means by which a government adjusts its spending levels and tax rates to monitor and influence a nation's economy. So, ang fiscal policy o patakaran sa pananalapi ay ang paraan ng ating pamahalaan kung paano ang paggamit sa pondo ng ating bansa para sa ating ekonomiya. Ito rin ang paraan upang makontrol ang ating ekonomiya. At nakapaloob rin dito ang pangongolekta ng buwis. There are two types of fiscal policy. First, expansionary fiscal policy, and second, contractionary fiscal policy. Expansionary fiscal policy helps increase the economy. It intended to boost growth to a healthy economy level. Layunin nito na maisulong ang ating ekonomiya. While in contractionary fiscal policy, it helps slow the economic. It is also a reduction in government spending. Layunin nito na bawasan o kontrolin ang gastos ng gobyerno. At dahil sa nakalipas na World War II, labis na naapektuhan ang ating ekonomiya. At dahil sa Manila ang kapital ng Pilipinas, ito ay sobrang nag-struggle. In 1949, the economic situation were so problematic because of lack of funds such as military and educational sectors. And also, there are no efforts where to improve the tax collection. And the United States advised the adaptation of direct taxation. Ang direct taxation ay isang buwis na direktang binabayaran ng isang tao o ng organisasyon sa entity na pagpataw nito. Ang halimbawa nito ay ang pagbayad sa buwis sa kita at pagbayad sa buwis sa real properties o mga sariling ari-arian. Manuel Rojas declined the proposal of the United States dahil sa ayaw niyang makipagsosyo pagdating sa pamamalakad sa Kongreso. The impetus of economic growth came during the time of President Elpidio Quirino through the implementation of import and exchange controls that lead to important substitution development. Ang import and exchange controls is a method of state intervention in the imports and exports of the country. While the import substitution development, it is a trade and economic policy which advocates replacing foreign imports with domestic production, na kung saan ito ay ang sariling produkto ng ating bansa. This policy allowed for the expansion of a viable manufacturing sector that reduced economic dependence on imports. New tax measures were also passed, which included higher corporate tax rates that increased government revenue. Tax review in 1953 increased twofold compared to 1948. Pagdating man kay Ramon Magsaysay, Garcia, Macapagal, nangakong pag-aaralan nila ang istruktura at patakaran ng buwis ng bansa o gumawa ng isang matatag at mabisang tax collection scheme. Sa panahong post-war republic, tumaas rin ang korupsyon. Mula 1959 hanggang 1968, ang Kongreso ay hindi nagpasa ng anumang buwis sa kabila ng mahahalagang pagbabago sa ekonomiya. At ang interes ng mga Pilipinong negosyante sa Kongreso ay makikita sa maraming pagkakataon tulad ng pagtanggi sa mga buwis. Indirect tax, it is a tax imposed by the government on a taxpayer for goods and services rendered. Ibig sabihin nito, ito ay buwis na ipinapataw ng pamahalaan sa isang nagbabayad ng buwis para sa mga produkto at serbisyong ibinibigay. Sa ilalim ng pamumuno ni Marcos, na kilala bilang may makapangyarihang pamamalakad, ay nananatiling regressive ang sistema ng buwis dahil nakadepende pa rin sa indirect tax. On 1981 to 1985, Marcos year, the tax system was still heavily dependent on indirect taxes, which made up of 70% of total tax collection. And also, the tax system remained unresponsive. And also, the taxes grew at an average annual rate of 15% and generate on how that produce. Sa panahon naman ng pamumuno ni Corazon Aquino sa gobyerno, pagkatapos ng EDSA Revolution, she reformed a tax system through the 1986 Tax Reform Program. The 1986 Tax Reform Program aim is to simplify the tax system, make revenues more responsive to economic activity, promote horizontal equity, and promote growth by correcting existing taxes. Ibig sabihin nito, ang sistemang ito ay naglalayon na gawing simple ang sistema ng buwis, gumawa ng higit na kita na tumutugon sa aktibidad na pang-ekonomiya na nagtataguyod na isulong ang paglago sa pamamagitan ng pagwawasto sa umiiral na buwis. The following are the major reform in the tax system introduced under the term of Aquino. Ang number one is uniform rate of 10% on sale of domestic and imported goods and services and zero on exports and foreign currency denominated sales. Ang isabihin nito ay ang pagpataw ng 10% na uniform rate para sa pagbebenta ng mga produkto na galing sa labas ng bansa at 0% naman sa mga produkto na manggagaling sa ating bansa. Number 2 ay imbis na 10% ang ipinapataw na sa iba't ibang taxes, ginawa ng 60 nominal rates upang sa gayon ay hindi naman mahirapan o maburden ang mga walang pangalang produkto. Number 3 is 2% tax on entities with annual sales or receipts of less than 5,200,000. Number 4, para mapagtibay ang tax credit method, kinakailangan nating ikalkula para maibawas ang mga tax na hindi maganda ang sales na naipundar. Number 5, this tax stated that libre na lamang ang mga agriculture and marine food products para sa basic commodities. At ang huli, ang pagdagdag ng 20% tax para sa mga non-essential articles na gaya ng mga alahas, perfumes, at dami pang iba. Ang Value-Added Tax Law was signed in 1986 and put to effect in 1988. It is a new tax law would reduce its reliability as legislative exemption grow, and as a result of the tax reform of Aquino administration, both the tax and revenue efforts rose, increasing from 10.7% in 1985 to 15.4% in 1992.
So the next president was President Fidel Ramos. During his administration, the Philippines enjoyed economic growth and stability and ventured into its own tax reform program in 1997 through the Comprehensive Tax Reform Program. So this comprehensive tax reform is implemented to make the tax system broad-based, simple, and with a simple and reasonable tax rate, minimize tax avoidance allowed by existing loopholes in the system, encouraged by payments by increasing tax exemptions levels, lowering the higher tax rates, and simplifying procedure and rationalize the grant of tax incentive. Other economic reforms achieved during the Ramos administration was the readjustment of the value-added tax. So this value-added tax or VAT was also broadened in 1997 to include service through the Republic Act 7716. This Republic Act number 7716 is an act restructuring the value-added tax system, widening its tax base and enhancing its administration, and for this purpose, amending and repealing the relevant provisions of the National Internal Revenue Code as amended and for other purposes. There are some features of the improved VAT law such as restore the VAT exemptions for all cooperatives like agricultural, electric, credit, or multipurpose and others, provided that the share capital of each members does not exceed 515,000 pesos. Expanded the coverage of the term simple processes by including broiling and roasting, effectively narrowing the tax base for food products. Expanded the coverage of the term original state by including molasses. And lastly, there are some services that are exempted from the VAT, which are importation of meat, sale or importation of coal and natural gas in whatever form or state, educational services rendered by a private educational institution duly accredited by Commission on Higher Education or CHED, house and lot and other residential dwellings valued at 51 million and below, subject to adjustment using the Consumer Price Index or CPI, less of residential units with monthly rental per unit of not more than 58,000 subject to adjustment using CPI, and also sale, importation, printing, or publication of books or any news and any newspaper are exempted from the VAT. Additional information on the administration of Ramos, the Philippine Stock Exchange in the mid-1990s was one of the best in the world, and his visions of Philippines 2000 that lead the country into a newly industrialized country in the world. President Joseph Estrada. He known as Erap Joseph Estrada, and he was the first president who had been famous film actor. So sa kanyang pagkapangulo noong 1998 to 2001 was too short to constitute any change in the tax. Bagkus, ito'y naging resulta ng pagbaba ng economic growth ng bansa na kung saan siya ay nakasuhan ng plunder o magnanakaw na umabot ng $80 million ang kanyang nakuha. Kaya si Pangulong Joseph Estrada ay inalis sa kanyang pwesto sa pagiging Pangulo na kung saan si Vice President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo ang pumalit sa pagka-Pangulo. When Gloria Macapagal Arroyo became a president, she undertook increased government spending without adjusting tax collection na kung saan naging resulta ng large deficit o kakulangan ng pundo simula 2002 hanggang 2004 na umabot ng 4.5% ang average ng economic growth ng bansa. So ang gobyerno ay tumingin ng karagdagang pagkukunan ng kita para mapalaki ang pondo. So noong 2005, the Expanded Value Added Tax or EVAT ay naaprubahan bilang isang batas as a Republic Act 9337, which subjecting to VAT energy products such as coal and petroleum products and electricity generation, transmission, and distribution. Also, professional services o yung mga taong nagtatrabaho sa gobyerno ay kasali rin sa nagbabayad ng buwis. So noong February 2006, ang VAT tax rate ay naging mataas na kung saan umabot ng 10% to 12%. Next president was President Benigno Simeon Aquino III. He joined the House of Representatives and the Senate before his presidency. He is the first president who is a bachelor. When he became the President of the Philippines in 2010, he promised that no new taxes would be imposed and additional revenue would have to come from adjusting existing taxes. Also, the administration of Aquino ventured into the adjustment of excise tax on liquor and cigarettes, also known as the sin tax reform. So ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin ng sin tax reform? Sin tax reform is a primarily health measure with revenue implication, but fundamentally, it is a good governance measure. It's help finance the universal healthcare program of the government, which simplified the current excise tax system on alcohol and tobacco products. During of Aquino III presidency, the Republic Act 10351 was passed and the government revenues from alcohol and tobacco excise taxes was increased. Collection from tobacco and alcohol in 2015 is made up of 1.1% of the gross domestic product, and the improvement in tax collection resulted in the Philippines receiving a credit rating upgrade into investment grade status. So, the sin tax reform is an example on how tax reform could impact on social services, as allowed by the increase of the Department of the Health budget, which is tripled in 2015, and free health insurance premiums for the poor people enrolled in PhilHealth was increasing also from 55.2 million in 2012 to 515.4 million in 2015. Lastly, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. He was the first president, came from Mindanao, and probably he was the current president. During of his administration, he promised that the tax reforms, particularly in income taxes, as it vowed to lower income tax rates shouldered by working Filipinos, and he proposed tax reforms also seeks to limit VAT exemption and increasing excise taxes on petroleum products and automobile. And the present income tax scheme of the country is the second highest in the Southeast Asia, and the current laws on income taxes were outdated as they were drafted 2 decades ago. It's hoped that the reforms in the country's tax policy will result in the much desired economic development that will be felt even by the lowest classes in society. Shukran and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.